Somebody said Satanism's real and walking here on earth. Well, if that's true, then tell me who's been carrying on his work. Ruining lives, spreading shame and wrecking many homes. As sure as God is real for good, Satan's real for wrong. Oh, once I made him happy, and once I made him glad. But when he saw me on my knees, I know it made him sad. Jesus broke the shackles and he set my spirit free. Oh, glory, hallelujah, Satan has no claim on me. For just about 6,000 years, the devil's had his way, trying to get everybody he could to walk the downward way. I know he'd like to see us all share his misery. Thank God I found a better way to spend eternity. Oh, once I made him happy, and once I made him glad. But when he saw me on my knees, I know it made him sad. Jesus broke the shackles and he set my spirit free. Oh, glory, hallelujah, Satan has no claim on me. Yes, once I made him happy, and once I made him glad. But when he saw me on my knees, I know it made him sad. Jesus broke the shackles and he set my spirit free. Oh, glory, hallelujah, Satan has no claim on me.
And here we are, coming to you live from our top secret broadcasting bunker here at Area 52 from the Hog Pen. And today we are broadcasting from Perth, Australia, where it is already December the 21st, 2012, and nothing has happened. There has been no asteroid strike the Earth. The moon has not disintegrated. The sea has not overflowed the banks. What else? The Antichrist has not been born that we know of. And it's already December 21st, 2012 in Australia. And it seems like everybody's doing okay for Australians, that is. And I guess that would include Australia, Eastern Russia, Japan, Korea, China, places like that. It's already 2013. And we do not have any reports of the end of the world as we know it. Today we have a very special guest on the Pastor Mike online live broadcast. I don't do this very often, but we have a very special guest today. Would you please put your hands together and welcome Jaden Lazarus Omondi Halanda. Bring him over here so everybody can see. That camera right there. Looky there. Oh, he's something else, isn't he? Say hi. Yeah, okay. All right, you heard it here first. Jaden Lazarus, how you doing? I'm just annoying this guy is what I'm doing. Thank you very much, Alicia. Okay, get that out of my hands. Okay, all right. When he turns 14, I'll deal with him. But for now, he's all mamas and grandmas and aunts and church ladies and all that stuff. They can have him all they want to. I love him. I love him, but newborn babes are not for tough guys like me. Anyway, good to have him in the family. I've got some news articles today. I'm going to talk about the Connecticut shooting. And I am, to many of you that listen and you watch our church, you watch the Watchman broadcast, a Pure Bible Study, Pastor Mike Online, church services, Bible Truth Radio, everything that we do here. I'm your pastor, and I'm going to admonish, and I'm going to give what I think is some biblical correction to some people, and not that you have to do everything I tell you to do. I don't believe in that, but I'm just going to give you some good brotherly Christian advice from the Bible on some things that are going on surrounding this shooting, surrounding the Aurora, Colorado shooting and all other shootings that have taken place. The Amish school, you remember that? Amish school back in 2006 had some crazed gunman go in, kill all these little innocent Amish kids, for crying out loud. The Sikh temple, where a guy went in and shot up a bunch of people. And I'm going to give a little admonishment to people, a little correction, not a chastening or anything like that, because I believe in free speech. I really do, and it doesn't matter how ridiculous sounding the speech is, and I'm not saying you're ridiculous. I'm just saying that I believe in free speech, and I believe let's float all the ideas out there and see which one really sticks concerning what's going on. Everybody has questions. What's going on? We weren't there. We weren't in Adam Lanza's house the day before, the morning of. We were not the police department that showed up. We were not the medical examiner. We're not any of those people that were involved in this, and so we have legitimate questions about what's going on. Is there a conspiracy involved here? I have Scripture. This is what I have. I have Scripture, and we'll get into that in a little bit. Michelle has sent me some good stuff to look at. And by the way, I'm looking forward to your email comments today and any questions you might have. We already have a couple of them showing up today. The email address is on the bottom. There's another one right there just flying in, PastorMikeOnline@gmail.com. And I've got some news here today on some pieces of paper. NDAA provision to protect citizens rejected. Congress stripped. Boy, you could stop right there. There's a news story right there. Congress stripped a provision Tuesday from a defense bill that aimed to shield Americans from the possibility of being imprisoned indefinitely without trial by the military. The provision was replaced with a passage that appears to give citizens little protection from indefinite detention. The amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act of 2013 was added by Senator Dianne Feinstein. I always read that wrong every time. But there was no similar language in the version of the bill that passed the House, and it was dumped from the final bill released Tuesday after a conference committee from both chambers worked out a unified measure. It declared that, quote, an authorization to use military force, a declaration of war, or any similar authority shall not authorize the detention without charge or trial of a citizen or lawful permanent resident of the United States apprehended in the United States unless an act of Congress expressly authorizes such detention. The provision sparked a heated debate in the Senate, but ultimately passed by a wide majority, with both supporters and opponents of U.S. terrorist detention practice voting for it, citing different interpretations. Feinstein offered the amendment to clarify part of the 2012 NDAA that for the first time codified the ability of the military and White House to detain terrorism suspects. Spokespeople for Senate committee leaders did not immediately answer why the amendment was stripped, but pointed to the language that replaced it. Here's the language that replaced it. Nothing in the authorization for use of military force or the National Defense Authorization Act shall be construed to deny the availability of the writ of habeas corpus or to deny any constitutional rights in a court ordained or established by or under Article 3 of the Constitution to any person inside the United States who would be entitled to the availability of such writ or to such rights in the absence of such laws. The new provision appears to do little because the Supreme Court has already declared that the writ of habeas corpus, and if you don't know what that is, I'll explain it in a minute, requiring that someone be presented to a judge applies to all people. The more difficult part of whether people deserve a trial remains unsettled, and the new provision does not appear to resolve it. Here is the little teeny bit I understand about our laws in this country. A writ of habeas corpus. It's written into the Constitution because in the colonies, back when King George was in charge of the colonies, he would just have people arrested, throw them in jail. What for? Well, we just got them in jail. And basically, they were just inconvenient people is what they were. They didn't want them starting a revolution. And so they just arrested people and threw them into prison for no reason. And so when they wrote the Constitution, they said, well, I'll tell you what, we're not going to be that way. We're going to be better than that. We're going to make a system whereby if someone is going to be arrested by law enforcement officials, the law enforcement, the state, has to produce a writ, a piece of paper with writing on it. I like pieces of paper with writing on it. That's why I like the Bible. That's why I like the written record of the Word of God. It's static. It doesn't change. You can't change ink on paper. And a writ of habeas corpus basically says the state is accusing such and such person of violating the laws of the state, Section 4, Paragraph C, Subtitle L. This is the law that we are accusing them of violating. That's a writ of habeas corpus. And that then is presented to a judge. It's called an arraignment here in this country. And when people are arraigned, they go appear before a judge. The state reads off the charges. The judge asks, are you guilty or not guilty? In almost every case, they've got a lawyer. They're saying not guilty. If you're going to accuse my client, prove it in a court of law, or maybe he did it. Let's work on a different sentence or whatever. But there is a judicial process that is guaranteed everybody, including those who are very, very guilty, including O.J. Simpson, for crying out loud. He got a writ of habeas corpus when he was arrested. He got charges laid up against him. There's a reason why. They said there's a reason why we arrested you. We think you killed your wife and her boyfriend. And so anyway, and the whole thing about the detention, the unlawful detention deal that has come up in the last year or two is the aspect that the United States government can grab anybody they deem as an enemy combatant, even if they don't declare war, and take them down to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, and lock them up down there indefinitely without a writ of habeas corpus, without the judicial process being in place. We'll keep our eyes on that one. And you and I both know that there is a reality that exists. A reality that exists. We first started thinking this way back in the 90s, and this thought kind of exploded because of the internet, because people now are communicating with one another through the means of the internet, and on a massive scale, people are communicating one another, and they're floating ideas. And the idea that's always been out there to people is, could there be, at some point in America, the government arresting and detaining U.S. citizens without due process, without writ of habeas corpus, without the benefit of a judge hearing the cause or the benefit of a trial of a jury by our peers? Is that possible? And there are executive orders, presidential decision directives that are on the books that possibly lay out a scenario whereby American tax-paying citizens could be arrested, put into a detainment center of some kind without any jurisdiction, without any court, without a jury, without a judge, without a writ of habeas corpus, without any proof that they committed a crime whatsoever. Just round them up. That possibility exists, and I like the fact that we can talk about that in our country and in many places around the world. That can be discussed, and the idea that this could very well take place, and I think it's valid. And then we have, attention everybody, on December 21st in Perth, Australia, 2012, Time Magazine, well, they didn't actually do this today, it's the 20th here still. We are on a countdown to 10 hours and 45 minutes till midnight here in the wonderful state of Missouri, where we are getting a little bit of light snow here. The temperature went, this morning when I got up at 6, the temperature went from 55 degrees And right now, the temperature outside of our top secret broadcasting compound here at 1233 American Legion Drive is 33 degrees. So we've lost a lot of air anyway. But anyway, Time Magazine on the 19th, after looking at all the potential possibilities of who is going to be the Time Magazine Person of the Year. Used to be the Man of the Year. Now it's the Person of the Year. Drum roll, please. For Barack Hussein Obama. Again. And there was an article here. Hey, now this is great. Someone please call former Libyan Ambassador Chris Stevens' mom and tell her the good news. Oh, the scandals of the Obama presidency. Where shall we start? Do we start with the Americans that were killed in the Fast and Furious gun-running scandal? I dealt with that in the Watchmen broadcast for next week. Or maybe we'll talk about the Obama-financed Muslim Brotherhood takeover of Egypt. Or perhaps we need to revisit the Benghazi massacre and subsequent cover-up. President Barack Obama has been named Time Magazine's Person of the Year for 2012, allowing him the honor for the second time in 4 years. The magazine cited the president's historic re-election last month as symbolic of the nation's changing demographics amid the backdrop of high unemployment and other challenges. So we have the worst economy in decades. We have the highest unemployment rate in the world, and he's not doing anything to fix it. What he did do was what amounted to a government takeover of General Motors. And everybody teased, everybody saying it was government motors. Well, now the Obama administration is going to turn government motors back over to the shareholders. And oh, by the way, it's only worth like half of what it was when we got it. And we've lost, I don't know how, $5 billion in the deal. And that's what he's done. But now he's Time Magazine's Person of the Year. And if you remember when Barack Hussein got elected, he immediately goes to receive his Nobel Peace Prize. For what? What did he do? It's almost like, and if you're not familiar with American politics, there's a theory here called affirmative action. It's actually a government policy in some places. Affirmative action basically says it's unfair that an employer will hire, let's say an employer is going to hire 100 people, and they go through all the resumes and the everything like that, and they hire 100 of the best qualified people in their opinion, and only 5 of them are black. And so affirmative action says that the company, instead of hiring 100 of the most qualified people and only 5 of them be black, they must hire another 20 people, kick out 20 white people that are the best qualified, and bring in 20 black people, whether or not they are the best qualified or not for the job. That's affirmative action. So basically, and I'll be honest with you, if I was a black person, I would be ticked off at this. This would make me angry. This would be an insult and an offense to me. It basically says to me, you can't earn a job on your own merit. You have to be given one by the government to make you feel better about being black. And I think that's ridiculous. And so, but that's what affirmative action is. And so now we have the affirmative action president who got into office admittedly by the people who voted him in. I voted him in because he's black. I voted him in because he's African American. I voted him in because he wasn't one of the white boys. That's why I voted him in. So he gets in because of affirmative action. Then he gets reelected for the same reason, the affirmative action. He gets the Nobel Peace Prize. Why? Because not because of what he's done, but because of what color his skin is. I thought when Martin Luther King stood before the Washington Mall and gave that famous speech, I have a dream. His dream was that blacks and whites would be equal. And as far as brain ability, as far as intellect, as far as intelligence, as far as body size and mass, and the ability to do work, and the ability to think, the ability to play checkers or chess, or the ability to run computers or program software or do heart surgery. We are all the same. There is no difference on the inside of us. Skeletal structure the same, brain mass the same, blood B positive, B negative, O negative. That's all the same human blood. And Martin Luther King, and I don't know what you think of the guy, but at least he had that part right, if I understand him correctly. He just said, I think we all ought to be treated equal. Well, let's treat them equal then. Let them work and work for their own benefit. Not be given something. That's insulting. And so Barack Hussein gets to be president twice, gets the Nobel Peace Prize, gets Time Magazine's Man of the Year twice. For what reason? His skin color. It's not what he did. He's been a reckless president. He has weakened our country in front of the Muslim Brotherhood, funneled billions of dollars to extremist Muslim causes, funneled, if you believe some of the stories, guns and ammunition through Libya, which some say was part of the Benghazi scandal to begin with. That's what he's done. He's wrecked the economy. He wants to give away massive amounts of the wealth of America to people who don't work and who don't do anything. But he gets to be president twice. He gets Time Magazine's Man of the Year twice, and he gets the Nobel Peace Prize. Why? Because he's black. That's affirmative action. If I was that guy, I would. If I was Barack Hussein, and I had any self-decency and self-respect, I would tell them they could take their statue, their trophy, or whatever it is, and pick their nose with it. I want nothing to do with it. And then here we go. By the way, I recorded 2 Watchmen broadcasts yesterday. The tentative title that I'm giving them is Weapons. Because that's what's at the forefront of what we're dealing with right now. Whether or not the government is going to try to control all of the weapons in the country. Duh. You and I both know what's going to happen, or they're going to try to make it happen. Now, here's a story here, and I watched a YouTube video yesterday, and the guy got so annoying I had to turn it off. This is from the Associated Press. Spurred by a horrific elementary school shooting, President Barack Hussein tasked his administration Wednesday with creating concrete proposals to reduce gun violence that has plagued the country. Well, this time, the words need to lead to action, said Obama, who set a January deadline for the recommendations. He vowed to push for their implementation without delay. Now, I want you to understand what he said. What he said is that he has set a January deadline for proposals from socialists, communists, and liberals on a gun control bill or law or some sort of action that would control the moving and sale and distribution of firearms in this country. And he set a January deadline for the ideas to come in. He's wanting to move on this swiftly. So, a guy, and I don't remember, I've never seen this guy before. I don't know who he is. I don't know what I would, if I was this guy's neighbor, I would have to do everything that Jesus commanded me to do as far as this guy being my neighbor. I would have to love this guy. I would have to put up with him. I would have to say nice things to him, and I would have to pray for him. But as far as going to his backyard barbecue, it wouldn't happen. A guy, and I saw it on Facebook. A guy posted a video on Facebook, and he's like bouncing in his chair, and he's yelling at the top of his voice to a micro, which, okay, I've done those things, okay? But I mean, he is absolutely irate. And here's what he's saying. What he said, and the title of the video, and you could probably find it on YouTube, the title of the video was Obama is going to get our guns January 1st, 2013. They're coming to get them January 1st, 2013. So it went from, and this is typical of how things operate in a free society and in a free information world. It goes from Barack Hussein saying publicly, I want ideas on how to control guns by January 1st or by January. I need them quickly. Put them together. Let's get busy. Let's start working on them. Then this guy comes out with, he's going to come and get our guns January 1st, 2013. That's not true. But he gets a lot of hits on YouTube. He gets a lot of postings on Facebook. And everybody now is going, I knew it. They're coming to get our guns. And I can just see some people sitting in a chair by their front door with their semi-automatic rifle sitting by the door January 1st, 2013 going, they're going to come in any minute now. I saw the YouTube video. They had the evidence, the proof. The jig is up. I'm not going to blow them away. I can just see people doing that. And there is, again, don't get me wrong. And I'm headed in a certain direction today, so hang with me, all right? Are they going to try to control guns in this country? Yes, absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind about it. I tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and go on record with this one, too, all right? And write this down that I said this, okay? Everybody who considers me your friend, your brother, your pastor, good old guy Mike Hoggard, I want you to write this down, and I want you to hold on to it. Put it on a piece of paper somewhere around your computer. Make a Microsoft Word document about it, or Open Office if you use that, and or Pages if you're a Mac person. And write this down that I said this. I do not believe for 1 minute that there will be a mandatory microchipping of everybody in America in March of 2013. I do not believe that is going to happen. Okay, you write that down that I said that, and then at the end of March, you can email me and say, Pastor, you were right, or Mike, you're an idiot. Why didn't you listen to us? We were trying to tell you that this was going to happen. And it's basically what some people were saying was in the Obamacare health bill, that there is going to be mandatory microchipping March of 2013. Well, we're just 3 months away from that. So Shirley, I want you to keep a piece of paper by your computer or on your computer. Put it in a calendar. If you have a calendar with alarms, like on your phone or something like that, put it on there, April 1st. Okay, April 1st. You're going to send me an email, and we're going to discuss whether I was right or wrong on this. There is, and now, do I believe that there is a plan or a talk to chip people? Yeah, I believe that without any doubt. Do I believe that the Obamacare bill has something to do with that? Yeah, I do. The medical records thing that was put into the stimulus bill. For some reason, now all of a sudden, all the hospitals and doctors have to use computers for their medical records, and they all have to join together and link in a big database, which is going to be rife with corruption and fraud. All right? And there's no doubt in my mind now that there will be employers who will refuse to hire someone because they got a sneak peek at their health records, and they say, well, this person's crazy. They suffer from depression. I'm not going to have them here, and people won't get hired for that. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I think is going to happen. The tracking of American citizens, world citizens for that matter, is that going to take place? Absolutely. So I'm on the same side as everybody. It's just that I have to be critical first and let things go through the sieve of credibility and factuality before I can say, yeah, this is what happened. And so I'm there, January 1st, 2013, Obama is not going to knock on your door trying to get your assault weapons. It's not going to happen January 1st, 2013. Is there something coming down the road? Well, you bet there is. Let's get ready for it, but it's not now, okay? March of next year, I predict that they will not begin forced microchipping of every American citizen. That's what I believe. All right? Let's see here. So gun control is coming. Be watching for the next 2 Watchmen video broadcasts. By the way, not just physical gun control, spiritual gun control. Texas, did you see this? Now, I don't recommend, if you are of a male persuasion, I don't really recommend you watching this. But there is there are some pictures, some screen captures of it. Texas Trooper Kelly Hellison caught giving 2 women a body cavity search during a routine traffic stop. 2 Texas women are suing, and they should sue. Are suing after state troopers subjected them to a humiliating and invasive roadside body cavity search that was caught on video. The troopers' dash camera, they did this in front of the camera on the side of the road at night with the troopers' light shining on them so they could see. Female trooper Kelly Hellison is seen in the footage aggressively searching the private parts of Angel Dobbs and her niece Ashley Dobbs in front of passing cars. The women who claim the trooper used the same rubber glove for both of them, and that's clear. And nobody does that. Nobody does that. In fact, let me give you a little interesting story. I don't remember exactly who the doctor was, but there was a British physician back in the 1800s that he was a female doctor. He was a man, but he was a doctor to females. He was a gynecologist, I guess. And he noticed that all of a sudden now his patients were dying of a terrible, bad infection. And he was just, I don't know what's going on here. I mean, you got to understand 19th century medicine. These guys operate with no gloves. They didn't even wash their nasty hands. And this physician, upon reading the scripture and seeing the Levitical law about how you got to wash your hands every time you do something, every time you touch this, you need to go wash your hands. Well, he went, maybe I ought to start washing my hands. And when he started washing his hands, he noticed that his female patients were not dying anymore. And he went, maybe there's something on my hands that I can't see. And that's what started all of that. And everybody knows that you don't do a cavity exam on a woman or a man and use the same gloves. That's stupid. Anyway, but that's what happened. Let's see here. And they were pulled over because the cops saw one of them throw a cigarette butt out the window. Farrell can be heard in the disturbing video questioning the pair about marijuana, though he failed to find any evidence of the drug in the vehicle. And by the way, there is a case going on right now, or maybe it's been settled. I don't know. I saw something on the news this morning in St. Louis. Cops deliberately planted, they got caught doing it, deliberately planting marijuana in a guy's truck to get the dog to react so that they could have justification to do a search of this guy's car. Now, in the Watchmen broadcast for next week and the week after that, I talk favorably of most people in law enforcement. The people that I know personally in Festus, Crystal City, Jefferson County, in this area, the people that I know personally that are in law enforcement, I know at least 6 or 7 people that are in law enforcement in this county. And they're good guys. When I tell them, hey, I got a concealed carry license, they said, good for you. Shoot them dead. Save us the trouble. And they're serious about this. These guys know what kind of punks and weirdos and fruitcakes and perverts and dopeheads live in Jefferson County. They deal with these people every day. And most of the good guys that I know of want the good guys, want the good citizens armed, well armed. Protect yourself. We had a friend of mine who is a friend of this ministry. I talked to him one time, and I told him, I said, I'm letting you know, and he has jurisdiction in this area. And I told him, I said, if there's ever a case and somebody comes in our church, I said, you'll get a call. And I said, you better bring the what my brother-in-law, he's the guy that picks up the bodies in this county. And I said, you better call him. And I said, hopefully it won't be any of us. I said, the guy, anybody that comes in, try to shoot in this church. And the cop told me, he said, kill him. He said, do it all the way. He said, don't play around with it. If they come in and they pull something like that, go all the way with it. And so there are some good guys out there in police. Most guys in law enforcement they're just guys in law enforcement. They're Americans. They've got a wife and kids. They get it. They're deer hunters. They're turkey shooters. They're fishermen. They're just good old boys like the rest of us. But there are some bad, dirty cops out there. And there are, in every state of the union, some people where the badge goes to their head. And there are some dirty cops out there that think everybody's bad. Everybody's doing something wrong. There is that mentality, and I understand that. And so let's wait to see what the lawsuit says. Let's wait to see how this comes out. I know there's two sides to every story, but I watched the video, and it doesn't show any nudity or anything like that, so don't think that I did something like that. But it shows this female cop giving these two gals a cavity search with using the same glove on the side of the road. And you have to ask yourself, was that really necessary? Was it justified? Now, I will tell you that if that would have been me and they pulled me over and wanted me to subject myself to something like that on the side of the road, I'm going to refuse. Well, you're going to get arrested. Well, let's bring this on then. Let's do this. Okay, let's get this on record here. Let's go down to the station and let's talk to some people. And let me make my phone call, by the way. And then we'll do this the right way if you think you have justification for it. And again, you have to ask yourself the question, is there going to be a situation where people are going to be detained, questioned, frisked, patted down? Well, yeah, every time people go to the airport. And that's the world that's the country we're living in right now. Is it going to get worse? And the answer is yes. And so, and you and I both know, or we firmly believe, that more than likely, if stuff really, really gets serious in this country, that the United Nations will bring in foreign aid. Because there's a lot of American soldiers that are good guys, and there's a lot of American cops that are good guys, and they're going, we're not doing that. So anyway, Second Amendment, hypocrites, senators. Here's something you should know. Chuck Schumer, Dianne Frankenstein, I did it again, Feinstein. Have you seen her? Anyway. Recent poll conducted by the National Association of Chiefs of Police indicated that almost 64% of police commanders and sheriffs favor a law allowing private citizens to carry concealed firearms for protection. Almost 73% said that citizens should not be restricted from purchasing more than one weapon, and 96% say they believe criminals obtain firearms from illegal sources. Okay? At the same time, there are outspoken opponents of gun ownership, such as Senators Chuck Schumer and Dianne Feinstein, who are carrying concealed weapons. They don't want you to have one, but they have one. But they don't want you to have one. And they would say, well, don't you understand? I'm with the government. I have a right to carry a weapon. And all these loudmouth Hollywood celebrities, Rosie O'Donnell and Ellen DeGeneres and all of these other lesbians and everything else in Hollywood saying loudly, we need to get rid of all the guns. No more guns. These people don't go to the grocery store without having armed guards around them to protect them. Well, I'm sorry, Miss Rosie. Most of us can't afford that. We do good to just be able to afford the pistol that we're carrying around in our pocket or in our hip or something like that. Let's see here. Concerned parents label elementary school's holiday concert a form of bullying. It's the holiday season, a time of joy giving, and of course, parents outraged about the prospect of religious symbolism appearing at the elementary school their children attend. By the way, I tweeted this last week. My sons and I went to the local high school choir concert, and they sang the Hallelujah Chorus by Frederick Handel. You know, it says, Hallelujah, for the Lord God omnipotent reigneth forever and ever, and he shall reign forever and ever. I love that song. I think I know it by heart. Not the high part, the low part. They sang that. They sang, I don't know, probably at least 4 or 5 Christmas, Christian, Nativity, Jesus is Born songs. Silent Night, Holy Night. They sang that. And kudos to them for not caving in to the stupidity. When I was in high school, the concert choir, which I was in, and the National Honor Society, which I was not in, they did a joint thing every Christmas. We had a cantata that we sang. It was basically the story of the birth of Jesus according to the book of Matthew, according to the book of Luke. The National Honor Society displayed the scenes up on the stage while the choir sang, and we had a classmate named David Siegel. I remember David coming into our first grade class. We were in first grade together, and his family was Jewish, and they went to the synagogue. And I remember David being allowed to bring in his yarmulke, and he brought in a little Torah scroll, and he brought in all the different things that they did. And we were going, ooh, that's like cool to be a Jew, isn't it? Man, David's a Jew. We like Jews, okay? It's like we were cool with it. And then David, he's in the National Honor Society. He participates in the Christmas thing every year. Nobody gets upset. The Chief Charlo Elementary School in Missoula, Montana, where a group of protesting parents is so irate about the song selected for the school's holiday music program that they are contemplating legal action. There's been no lawsuit yet, but the parents have sent an anonymous letter to the superintendent of the Missoula County. Anonymous letter, you coward. They say the collection of songs is improper, unconstitutional, and a form of bullying. No, you people, going into a school with a shotgun is bullying. When are these little babies going to grow up in this country? We got thugs carrying weapons, high school kids, junior high school kids, middle school kids, elementary school kids, bringing guns into our schools, using suggestive language, using foul language at teachers, at other girls, having fights, threatening students everywhere. Violence is all in our schools. And these big babies in Montana, we think Jesus loves me and Silent Night, Holy Night, that threatened our children. We felt violated. We've got a lot of problems in America. Particularly galling to the parents are references to God and Jesus. With many of the children in our neighborhood up there being Jewish and Buddhist, as well as a few Muslim and atheist students, we were assured that this year it would be a secular program, the letter read, according to the Missoulian. It was signed, concerned, babyfied, childish, refused to grow up parents. There were no specific names. The previous year, the unsigned letter said young children sang lyrics about their Lord, which caused discomfort among some parents as well as students. I wonder if any of the groups in the school, the Glee Club, the choir, the band, did any Lady Gaga songs. I wonder. And did anybody say, that, I think it kind of makes me uncomfortable. Lady Gaga, she's a whore. They say, we have no problem with it being called a Christmas concert. It's just the fact that the material should be secular. Frosty the Snowman, Santa Claus, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, these are things that offend no one. Are you kidding? They offend me. Absolutely ridiculous. A guy goes in, kills 20 kids. There are 20 coffins with little children in it. And these people are so self-absorbed and so arrogant and so childish that they think that singing "O Little Town of Bethlehem" threatens children and bullies them in school. Moving right along, let's talk about Connecticut, shall we? Let's talk about Newtown, Sandy Hook, Connecticut. Let's talk about 20 coffins. And let's not forget the, what is there, 6 adults, including Lanza's mother, and various school teachers, brave people. Let's talk about, let's ask them if they felt threatened by anybody singing "O Holy Night." There is, let me get some notes here. I made some notes. I've been looking over Facebook. In fact, let me see if I can pull up. Here's my Facebook account now. Let me go look and see what's being said on Facebook. There's stories everywhere. Oh, there's a Barry Manilow concert. Cool. Anyway, I'm not a Barry Manilow fan, by the way. People posting things about the Connecticut shooting, conspiracy ideas. Things just aren't adding up. Things look weird. It looks like there was 3 gunmen. No, there was a whole, the Israeli Mossad was in on this. That's some of the other stuff. Now here's one I see. It's a YouTube video. Adam Lanza did not exist for the last 3 years. No record. He was non-existent. So basically, it's to put forth the idea that there is no such person as Adam Lanza, and it was a government hit squad that went in. What else is out there? There's all kinds of stuff. I have the Batman anomaly. The Batman movie, Dark Knight Rising, which premiered the night that in Aurora, Colorado, a guy went into the theater and started shooting. And the guy that looks like a Muppet. And he does. You look at his red hair sticking up, he looks like a Muppet. And someone pointed out that they heard the word Aurora in the Batman movie, and you could see on the map the word Sandy Hook. And everybody's saying, see, you should go watch this movie. And somebody then is looking at the map, because it apparently has like hit zones on it or something like that. I haven't seen the movie. And they're looking at the map, and they're trying to figure out, they're looking at this map, and I'm not exaggerating, this is what people are saying. They're looking at the map, and they're trying to figure out where the next event is going to happen, because they're pretty sure that it's on this map. And I'm not saying, because you know the things that I have put out, the Babel conspiracy and so on, there are things in movies that to me, it's undoubtedly there are themes and elements that are in movies. More subtle if you don't know what you're looking for. The things that I point to seem to be of the sort of the mystery religion in mind, symbolic things. I don't know that I've actually seen a map of where some bad thing was going to happen. I don't know that. I'm not saying there's not. I'm just saying I don't know that. And let me say this, in case you have sent me something like this. Again, we are all about free speech and the free expression of ideas, and let's put everything on the table and let's look at it. I am all for that. So I'm not ridiculing anybody. I don't want to belittle anybody. I know that sometimes when I'm doing the live broadcast, I come across sometimes as condescending or trying to put people down or whatever. And I'm going to work on that. I really am. I don't mean to be that way. I really don't mean to be that way. If you were standing here in front of me, I wouldn't be that way. But I'm in this tiny little room, and I think I'm all by myself, and I'm just talking to the foam walls here, and so, you kind of understand how it goes. So I am going to try to work on that and try not to be condescending, even to people that are just trying to be ridiculous. They're trying to get at me or trying to get me stirred up over something. And so I'm not ridiculing anybody for posting the Batman map. I'm not ridiculing anybody for that. I'm not ridiculing anybody for, there's been videos that have looked at, I watched one this morning, the medical examiner that came out and he did an interview in front of the press. Now, this guy is kind of goofy, all right? I mean, he is the Connecticut State Medical Examiner. This is not some butcher that they pulled in with a bloody apron off the street and said, hey, come here and fill out this report for us. Okay, I mean, this is the Connecticut State Medical Examiner. I don't know how he got his job, but that's who he is. The Connecticut State Medical Examiner is not camera ready. He is not. I mean, I'm watching this guy, and this guy does not belong in front of a camera or a microphone. And you got to understand, people who work with dead bodies are a different kind of people. It is a necessary job, but they are a different kind of people. I don't do that. I've helped my brother-in-law pick up bodies before. Most of it I've handled. Sometimes I'm just going, oh, that's bad. Oh, my goodness. But he's cut out for it. This guy has a personality that is sort of unusual, and it's kind of quirky. I get that. And there have been bloggers and Facebook posters that have watched this guy, and they're making extrapolations based upon a judgment of this guy's character and his persona in front of a camera. So they're trying desperately to inject the idea that something's not right here, something's fishy about this. I don't believe the official story because look how he's acting. Well, that's not evidence. That's not evidence. I mean, I watched the guy and I'm going, this guy's ugh. But you understand, this guy has been carving into the dead bodies of 6- and 7-year-old children for the last 3 or 4 days. This is what he's been doing. This is what he does for a living. Okay? Maybe he talks to them. I don't know. But to base your conspiracy theories or any kind of theory, let's just deal with this. The official story is Adam Lanza goes into the school. There's a discrepancy about how he got in. We don't really know yet. Maybe some know, and I just haven't read it. But there are 20 dead children and 6 dead adults. And according to the medical examiner, they were all killed by the same bullet. Not the same bullet, the same gun. That's the official story. There are people, and I'm fine with this idea, that are not comfortable with that. Fine. Let's question it. Let's examine the evidence. Let's look to see if there is a trail leading somewhere else that maybe somebody else did this. I don't mind doing that. I think it's good that the government and representatives of the government have an overseer, which is the people, and the freedom of speech that we have in this country that looks at that and says, you know what, I'm not satisfied with this, okay? But then it gets out of control. Then people look at the medical examiner tape and they say, there's something not right about that. I think it was a team of people that went in and shot all those kids, but you can't base it on that. There is we talked about the Batman anomaly, all of the different things that are feeding into that. The guy that they captured in the woods, was he part of it? I don't know. Let's ask the question. But I don't think we should automatically just jump and say there was somebody else in the woods. But let's examine it. Let's look at it. Now, there is one aspect of it that I was going to chase down. And that is, you've probably heard of this, the Libor scandal. And there is a video online, and I'm going to give you a piece of this video. At the beginning of it, it explains what Libor is and what the scandal is. It has to do with interest rates between banks and manipulation of those interest rates. All right, that's what that is all about. And there's a testimony before Congress going on concerning this about manipulating interest rates between banks, because some guys, if they can manipulate it, they can make a ton of money, and it's illegal. So it's been floating around on the internet that the father of the Aurora shooting and the father of Adam Lanza are both scheduled to testify before Congress in the Libor scandal. That's what's out there. And I'm going, wow, that's got me interested. And I thought, before I do this, I want to check it out. Who came up with this? Where did this information come from? Do we even ask that question? Where does this information come from? And so a guy examined it. I have never seen this guy before. What is his name? His name is, and you can look this up and find out, you can look more into it. His name is Ben Swan. And here's the article says, Ben Swan takes a look at reports in alternative media that the fathers of Adam Lanza, the alleged Sandy Hook shooter, and James Holmes, the alleged Colorado theater shooter, were both supposedly to testify in the Libor scandal. And so here is the conclusion now of Ben Swan. He said, I looked into it. I checked records. I did a little investigating. Here's what he came up with. Take a listen.
Is that as alternative media has gotten very excited about these two men, again claiming there is a direct correlation between Dr. Robert Holmes, the father of the Colorado shooter, and Peter Lanza, the father of the Connecticut shooter. There just isn't any evidence of that. So here are the facts. In the case of Dr. Robert Holmes, fact, there is no evidence that Dr. Holmes was on any witness list to testify before the Senate about LIBOR. There is no evidence that I have found so far that Dr. Holmes created an algorithm that broke open the LIBOR scandal. However, there is evidence that Dr. Holmes has created a number of algorithms over the years and is in the business of creating those algorithms for the sake of finding bank and credit fraud. As for Peter Lanza, there is also in his case no evidence that I have found that he was on any witness list to testify about LIBOR. However, and here's where it gets interesting, October 18th of this year, 3 men from GE Capital, yes, the unit of GE overseen by Peter Lanza, were sentenced to prison time for a bid rigging scheme. According to CNN Money, the 3 men sentenced worked for General Electric's GE Capital unit, where prosecutors say they colluded with counterparts at other firms to rip off bond issuers. 2 men, Dominic Carrillo and Peter Grimm, received 3 years in prison, while the third, Stephen Goldberg, got 4 years. The men are the first to be sentenced as part of the government's ongoing investigation of bid rigging in auctions for the investment of municipal bond proceeds by some of Wall Street's biggest firms. So, there is no evidence that Peter Lanza was going to testify about LIBOR, but it does appear that Peter Lanza's GE Capital division, over which he was vice president, again according to ABC News, was involved in a bid rigging scheme that used LIBOR rates to manipulate the bond market. That is the story as we know it so far. Is there more? Maybe. And we'll keep looking. Is that as alternative media has gotten very excited.
Well, I don't know what happened at the end of that there, but basically that was the full report. And the idea is that the alternative media out there, the Facebook people and so on, ran with the idea that these 2 fathers were scheduled to appear before Congress. Mysteriously now, both of their sons kill people. Okay? And that's not true. Now, is there a connection to this? Let's ask. but let's just don't assume. And here's where I'm going with all of this. I mentioned in a tweet today, Waco, Oklahoma City, Connecticut, the Amish Farm School, Columbine. What do they all have in common? Gary somebody had said to me the other day, they said, well, I tell you what's probably going to be next. Somebody's going to go into a daycare center and blow the place up. And I said, it's been done. And they went, what? Yeah. In the Alfred P. Murrah building, there was a daycare center in that building. And I still see the picture in my mind of a firefighter rescue guy carrying what looks like a lifeless child out of that rubble. I don't know if that child survived or not, but that's still in my mind, that picture. And there were children in that daycare center when the Alfred P. Murrah building was exploded. Was there some element of the government complicit in that? I suspect that there was. Waco, Texas. There we have the facts. The facts are, in Oklahoma City, we have dead babies and an explosion, and we have witnesses of more than one bomber, not just Timothy McVeigh. In Waco, Texas, we have an anomaly. We have, in the original raid at the Branch Davidian compound in Waco, Texas, we have agents of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms being killed in that original raid. It's an anomaly. It's interesting that all of the men who were killed in that raid, who worked for the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, were former bodyguards for Bill Clinton. All of them were, and they were reassigned to that division. All of them were. That's suspicious to me. That's funny, okay? And I don't mean funny, ha-ha. I mean strange. There were small and middle-aged children in the Branch Davidian compound who were in danger. Now, the justification for raiding the compound to begin with was that there were children in here that they suspected were being abused, neglected, or molested. So let's raid the place and find out. So the justification for the raid to begin with was these children are in danger. Janet Reno makes the decision, or somebody does, to ram this tank into the Branch Davidian compound. You remember seeing the images. All of a sudden now the place is on fire. It's burning out of control. And it kills women and children in this building. And nobody gets busted for it. Nobody gets in trouble for it. And apparently, those who set off the bomb at the Alfred P. Murrah building knew there was a daycare in there and didn't mind killing the children. The people who raided the Branch Davidian compound at least if you don't believe anything else, stood by and watched that building burn down without making an attempt to get those kids out of that building. Somebody didn't care enough to say, hey, we got to get those kids out of there. Somebody didn't care enough. And then we have Adam Lanza. There's an article here. Adam Lanza worshiped the devil, says former classmate. According to a report, Adam Lanza was battling some inner demons. A 20-year-old who went to Sandy Hook Elementary and killed innocent people was not only reportedly suffering from Asperger's syndrome, he also worshiped the devil. A former classmate of Adam says he had a devil-worshiping page and the word devil written in red against a black background. Now, here's my point in all this, and I apologize for taking so long to get here. Here's my point behind all of this. Should everything be on the table? Yes. Do we have to automatically, and follow me on this. We've had, how many school shootings have we had? How many mass shootings have we had where the gunman goes in, shoots up a bunch of people, blows his head off? How many of those have we had? And the people on the internet automatically, the first thing in their mind is the government, the government, the government. The government did this. The government's doing this. The government's trying to do this. Instead of going beyond that, looking at what is knowable, what is factual, and what is true, and that is the scope of this ministry and what we stand on here is not every conspiracy theory that floats down the river. It's the fact that we have a sure word of prophecy, and we actually have biblical evidence that devils hate children. They hate them. They're not concerned over them. They have no care. You and I look at children and say, how could somebody harm somebody? How could somebody look at a child and shoot them in cold blood? How could somebody do that? A normal human being, we still have what's called natural affection. Devils don't have that. They do not possess that nature about them. And I want to set us a standard for our ministry, for your ministry. You make YouTube videos, you have a blog, you post things on Google Plus or Facebook, or you tweet things. Let's tweet Bible verses. Instead of spending all night in our pajamas looking for the conspiracy theories about these kids and how they died, let's study our Bibles and find out about the devil and teach people about the devil that ultimately was responsible for this, and of that there is no doubt in my mind. Who his agents are of no consequence. Well, maybe a little consequence. But who the devil uses could be anybody. But, I mean, do we not believe in a conspiracy? Yes. Isaiah 14, there's a good one. Thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the side to the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. But he's not. He's not God. But he wants to try to be God. He wants to rule as God. But the problem is, God loves little children. The devil doesn't. He hates them. And anybody that he can influence, possess, take over, whisper to, coax into, deceive into, anybody that he does is going to harm a child or an innocent human being. They do it in abortion clinics every day. There are child abusers who go to church, who harm children, who think nothing of it. There are people out there who would put a bullet in a child. There are people out there in gangs who would shoot an innocent 6 or 7-year-old boy simply because their brother was in a rival gang. And my point is this, and I don't know if I'm making this very clear or not. My point is this: if we're gonna talk about this, let's please bring the scriptures in on the situation, because after all, what are we supposed to be doing? As watchmen on the wall, we are to be watching to see what's going on. We see a school shooting like this. We know according to scriptures where everything is headed. And I teach this in the Watchman broadcast over the next 2 weeks. I'm telling you that the Bible is telling you all about this gun control thing. The Bible has everything in the world to say about it, including the spirit that's behind it. Do you remember when the Philistines, they realized that they could not defeat Samson? They realized that they could not defeat him. Why? Because he had a source of power. Well, to the Christian, our source of power is a bended knee and this King James Bible. That's our power. In daily life, my mother keeps a pistol at her house because she would not be big enough to handle somebody breaking into her house by herself. So according to Scripture, Joel chapter 3, let the weak become strong. She's going to use a weapon against them if somebody ever comes into her house. And I'm going, Mom, good for you. Learn how to shoot it. She does. She knows how to shoot, by the way. Okay? And the devil wants to take away that power from the weak. That's what he wants to do. And I see that clearly. Mystery Babylon's behind it. By the way, who did the Philistines get to go take away the power of Samson? Delilah. She's Mystery Babylon. So let's study the scriptures, all right? Let me give you some here. And this took me 15 minutes. Okay, this took me 15 minutes to put this together. Genesis 4:23, and Lamech said unto his wives, Adah and Zillah, hear my voice, ye wives of Lamech. Hearken unto my speech, for I have slain a man to my wounding, and a young man to my hurt. If Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, truly Lamech 70 and sevenfold. So what are you getting at, Pastor Mike? Lamech killed a kid. He killed a child. He was a child murderer. By the way, you know what Freemasons, you know who they honor? Lamech. He was a child murderer. Okay, Genesis chapter 4. In fact, murder shows up in Genesis chapter 4. That's where it is. Cain kills Abel. Abel's innocent. He didn't do anything wrong. This young man that Lamech slew, he didn't do anything wrong. He just killed him. Deuteronomy 28:49. Here's what God said. There is a spirit behind this, people, and this is what I'm trying to tell you. This is what I think we need to be telling everybody. Instead of trying to, and I posted on my Facebook account, I'm looking at this map, and I want to know, does it really say that? I think it's interesting. But I'm looking at it, and I'm going, okay, I think it's curious. But I'm going to focus on something entirely different. There are people who want me to jump on all these conspiracy things and put them all together and show everybody that the government killed all these kids. That's what some people out there want me to do. And I can't do that because I have something better to give everybody. And that is the truth. Deuteronomy 28:49. God said, the Lord shall bring a nation against thee from afar, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand, a nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young. There it is right there. And he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle and the fruit of thy land until thou be destroyed, which also shall not leave thee either corn, wine, or oil, or the increase of thy kind, or flocks of thy sheep, until he have destroyed thee. In other words, God is telling you that there is a nation out there, there is a destroyer out there that will kill old people and kill children and think nothing of it. By the way, are there people who work in the medical field, are there people who wrote the Obama health care bill that don't show favor to old people? That's obvious. What is that then? That is a spirit that is on them. That is a spirit that is in them. There are people who work in nursing homes who don't care about these poor people that are in that nursing home because they can't take care of themselves. They've lived their life with dignity, and they work in these nursing homes and treat these people like human trash. That's a spirit. And a guy walks into a school and shoots 30 children or 20 children. He's got a spirit on him. Let's tell people about that. Deuteronomy 32:24, they shall be burnt with hunger and devoured with burning heat and with bitter destruction. I will also send the teeth of beasts upon them, and with the poison of serpents of the dust, the sword without and the terror within shall destroy both the young man and the virgin, and the suckling also with the man of gray hairs. You see, these devils are beasts. And beasts do not care if the human that they're eating is young or old. It doesn't matter to them. That's that spirit. There's a God behind this. Leviticus 18:21, thou shalt not let any of thy seed pass through the fire to Molech. Who's Molech? Who was Molech? He was the God that said, bring your children, your own flesh and blood children to me, and we're going to play the Lady Gaga music and the praise and worship so loud that you cannot hear the sizzling of their flesh on the brass altar that's on fire, and you cannot hear your infant child scream while you sacrifice your own child. Now, I will say this. There are elements of people in high places or low places in government that were sitting around and waiting for the Connecticut shooting to take place. Why? So they could force gun control down everybody's throat and have justification for it. Those people, to me, They don't care about those kids. Oh, they like to get on camera and say, this is so terrible. Oh, what a travesty in America. We need to fix this problem. Give us all your gun. They don't care about those kids. They care about their agenda. That's a spirit. Leviticus 20, 2 through 5. Again, thou shalt say to the children of Israel, whosoever he be of the children of Israel, or the strangers that sojourn in Israel, that giveth any of his seed unto Molech, he shall surely be put to death. God said, listen, God says, I know that people who give their children over to Molech, they're so demon-possessed that they're not savable. Kill them. Don't show any mercy to them whatsoever. Read Leviticus chapter 20. Jeremiah 32, verse 35. And they built the high places of Baal, which were in the valley of the son of Hinnom, to cause their sons and their daughters to pass through the fire unto Molech, which I commanded them not. Neither came it into my mind that they should do this abomination to cause Judah to sin. These devils don't care about children. They don't care about their pretty little faces and their sad eyes. They don't care about the joy of seeing their face on Christmas morning when they see things under the tree that weren't there the night before. They don't care about that. They don't care about little kids getting boo-boos and how Band-Aids help. And oh my goodness, don't put mercurochrome or iodine on there. That stings. They don't care about that. Exodus chapter 1, verse 22. And Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, every son that is born ye shall cast into the river, and every daughter ye shall save alive. Who said this? Pharaoh. Why? Because he didn't want the population of the Israelites to increase. So he said, let's going to kill all the boys. Every boy that's born, kill him. He didn't care. You know what Pharaoh cared about? Political power. That's what he cared about. Is that spirit alive and well in the Obama administration and in the halls of Congress and in the judicial halls? Absolutely. That spirit is there. They don't care how many children die. They say that they're going to prevent the next child from being killed. It's not true. The same day that the gunman goes in to Newtown, Connecticut and kills with a gun 20 kids, a guy in China with a knife slashes and cuts up 22 kids and their teacher. And they said that that's just a string of school attacks that have been happening in China. And they don't have any guns over there. They know good and well they're not going to stop this kind of stuff if they take away everybody's guns. They don't care about stopping the violence. All they care about is the political power that they're gaining because of this. We got the NRA to shut their mouth. That's what they care about. That spirit that doesn't care about the life of innocent children. And listen, that monster spirit is more prevalent than what we want to admit. Every time someone goes into a voting booth and votes for a pro-abortion candidate, that's that spirit. You don't care about the unborn children whose blood had to be shed because you wanted your labor union to have more political power. That's why you voted that guy in, because he's for the working man. We're going to get another $20.25 an hour if we put this guy in. He's not going to sell our jobs out to China. Oh, yeah, he does. So you voted for the abortionist candidate because he's pro-labor and pro-union. That's why you did it. Or, well, I heard that the other guy's going to slash Medicare and I'm going to lose all my benefits. You heard that, and so you voted the liberal, baby killer, abortionist political candidate in office for your personal gain. And the 4,000 babies a day that are slaughtered around the world mean nothing to you. That's that spirit. That's what you should be putting on your blog, your tweets, your Facebook account, your emails, your YouTube videos. We're watchmen on the wall, people. We're supposed to be looking for the sword to come. And so, yes, let's look at the map in the Batman movie. Let's ask ourselves, what was this guy doing down in the woods? Let's do that. But ultimately, we're not supposed to tell everybody, hey, I found a map in a Batman movie. Because who cares? You know what we're supposed to be doing? Sounding the trumpet. You know what the trumpet is, don't you? It's the Word of God. So why don't we give people scripture verses? At least, and if you can't really do any study like this, and like I say, this didn't take me long at all, but I sit and study the Bible all the time, so it was easy for me. I mean, surely you could put on there where Jesus said, suffer the little children to come unto me and forbid them not, for such is the kingdom of heaven. And if any one of you harm any of these children, it's going to be better for you to have a millstone around your neck and be cast into the sea than to deal with me on Judgment Day. I mean, you could post that. There's a spirit out there that hates children, wants them dead. Matthew chapter 2, verse 16, then Herod, when he saw that he was mocked of the wise men, was exceeding wroth and sent forth and slew all the children that were in Bethlehem. Whew. That's just wicked. That is, and why? Political power. Herod said, a king born, really? The king of the Jews? That's me. And he took it serious enough that he thought that he could have this king destroyed. And so he said, you know what? Since the wise men aren't going to tell me who it is, I'll just go and kill every baby in Bethlehem. Who knows? There could have been 50, 100 little children in Bethlehem that were slaughtered, not only by Herod the king, but by the soldiers that killed him. That's a spirit that kills little babies. Let's warn people about that kind of spirit, shall we? Let's have a high standard. Let me read some emails. Pastor Mike, you're crushing my tinfoil cap. Ouch. Keep in mind, us conspiracy theorists, factualists, never trust what they hear by mainstream media. Good for you. That's my point. ABC reports, as stated by this YouTube guy you played. As a side note, I believe a lot of this is a plan to create confusion. God forbid, yet let God be true, but every man a liar, as it is written, that thou mightest be justified in thy sayings and mightest overcome when thou art judged. And that's my point right there. Let God be true and every man a liar. You don't trust ABC, you don't trust CBS, NBC, Fox News, CNN, you don't trust the Associated Press, you don't trust the White House press release. I get it. But at least apply the same standard to the conspiracy bloggers out there who don't have any evidence at all and have no storyline whatsoever, and yet they created something. Or they guessed. They stipulate. Somebody help me out with this one. Jazz called me last night and said, did you hear that they kicked somebody off Facebook because he questioned the mainstream media's version of this shooting? And they kicked him off Facebook because he questioned the mainstream media's version of the shooting. And my immediate reaction to that is this. I don't know that. I don't know that this guy was kicked off of Facebook, number one. Number two, I don't know that he was kicked off of Facebook because he questioned the mainstream media. I have seen a lot of people on Facebook who have done the same thing, and they have not lost their account. Why was this guy kicked off if he was? Maybe, just maybe, he violated Facebook's terms of service somehow, some way, but he is telling everybody that they kicked him off because he questioned the mainstream. That's what he's telling everybody, but that's not really why they kicked him off. I mean, we jumped to a conclusion because this guy said, or it's like watch the YouTube video that YouTube banned. Well, why'd they ban it? Why'd they ban it? Probably because it had like 30 minutes of Lady Gaga music in there that was illegal to play. Or maybe this guy's just a jerk. I don't know. And you need to understand something about Facebook. Facebook is not a public service from the federal government. It's not. It's a privately held corporation with rules and guidelines, and if you break the rules and guidelines, they're going to kick you off. That's as simple as that. Was this guy kicked off of Facebook because he questioned the mainstream media's version of the Connecticut shooting? I seriously doubt it. I highly doubt it. And the reason why I doubt it is because I see so many other people doing the exact same thing, and they're all still alive. Anyway, L.A. writes in, Luann, the father of all conspiracies, Isaiah 14:13, thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. That's exactly it right there. Believe that one. Believe that one, all right? And you can run with that one. That will take you into some very, very interesting places if you'll start there and move on. Tricia writes in, says, I wanted to add to your remarks about Dr. Wayne Carver, the Connecticut medical examiner. You're spot on in your remarks about him. My neighbor Kevin is a pathologist assistant here in Wisconsin. He moved here from Maine a few years ago. He studied with Dr. Kava and spent 8 days working with him. He says the guy is brilliant but very quirky. He's 6'8" tall, and he drives a little convertible BMW without the top down. He can't even fit into it, kind of like a clown car. Kevin pretty much says all these folks are a little strange. Funny how you mention he's not camera ready. I feel for the guy as he had to perform the exams on all those babies. It's just heartbreaking. Hope you're all enjoying a beautiful Christmas. Well, I haven't been outside in a while. I hope it is. It white out there, Caleb?
It's snowing hard.
Caleb says it's snowing hard. Anyway, wishing you congratulations on the birth of little Jaden. Praying for you and your family as always. Hoping that Mrs. Hoggard, she is feeling much better. She went shopping today with her mother without me today. Praise the Lord for that. Trish, good to hear from you. God bless you. Thomas says, you may not get to this email, but yes, Pastor, you're right. Devils do not like children. Satan and his minions are no friend of mankind overall. Demon possession is real, and they can strongly influence a person's mind and therefore their actions. When the devils have achieved their want from a person, or what they want from a person, they release and let the consequences fall. While the lost struggle to understand kids killing kids or mass killings in general, the Bible already has the answer because its author is omniscient. Thomas, I appreciate that. I really do. God bless you. Now, Alexander writes to me and says, and I'm going to try to handle this in a decent way. You're talking about guns and all the shooting. How can you protect your family and church with man-made things? Oh, by the way, I have Adrian Watcher Doyle, who wrote me the email Tuesday, and I kind of said, hey, we carry guns, and we're going to use them. He called after the show, and he said, I wrote that. He said, I didn't mean to say that I don't like guns. Adrian likes guns. He said, if I lived in America, I would have guns. And so Adrian, I told him, I told him, I talked to him, I told him that I would tell everybody. He didn't really mean how it sounded. But Alexander says, how can you protect your family and church with a man-made thing and rely on it? I understand morals, but my moral is not the same like yours or others who do carry weapons for protection. I believe in God, in Jesus, who was in many situations where they wanted to kill him with rocks. If they had guns, they would do the same, but it never happened. I believe in God with all my heart, my soul, and my being. I believe we can cast out demons. We are the light of this world. So far, I agree with you on everything. Demons cannot stay light, and if it's not God's will for me to die, no matter how I die, I still will. It seems a lot of Christians say they trust God with all their life, but yet still not 100% we rely on guns. Jesus came for this reason, so we rely on him and him only. I hope more of your message be on his love and his promise so we can rely on him for everything, such events as this. Alexander, I agree with you on everything that you said, but I am going to add something here. I have made the statement over and over that I care not for my personal well-being or my personal life. Now, when I was being electrocuted, and I think in my heart that the electrocution that I encountered in 2006 was, I think that there was a spiritual attack on me personally. And I was getting ready to die. But at the end, when I was about ready to pass out, I said in my mind to God, I do not want to leave my wife and kids. And just like that, it let me go. Now, Alexander, you are talking to someone who doesn't just talk the talk as far as relying on God. I have actually been, you know what, I'm not done. I'm not done. So, hang on a second. Alexander, I have actually been in the situation of life and death and had nothing to depend on but God. I've been there. And so I know how it feels. I know how to do it. I get it. I understand that. But if I saw Caleb back here being electrocuted, and I had like a broom handle or a baseball bat or something like that, and when you see somebody being electrocuted, you don't run up to them and grab them. You don't do that. If you can give them a swift kick or something like that, and I know that if I use a bat or something like that to knock him off of whatever's electrocuting him, I might hurt him. I'm going to save his life, and I'm going to do it. I'm not going to stand there and say, God, save my boy. Now, if it's here's the thing. If it's within my power, and my ability to save somebody I love, I am immoral and ungodly for not doing it. But clearly, in a situation where I don't have the ability or the power to save someone's life or to save someone's soul or anything like that, then clearly God has put about a situation where I have nothing to do but trust God. And I have. And I can't even tell all the stories of how things have been out of my control. And I had nothing to do but trust God, and God came through. So I understand that. And Alexander, I understand you and countless others out there who the very thought of having a gun in your hand, it's just not there. I understand that. But what I'm telling you is that if I saw a legitimate threat to my wife, my children, a member of my church, my friend, or somebody, and I had it within my immediate ability to do something about it, I would. And it would be immoral for me not to. And there is a dead principal who all she had at Sandy Hook Elementary School was her own physical body. And from what I understand, she lunged and ran after the shooter to stop him from killing those kids, and he shot and killed her. Alexander, I wish to God that this principal would have had a gun. I wish to God that this principal would have had a gun. I appreciate you writing in. I hope that you're not offended at what I said. Brian, Pastor Mike, don't you think from the scriptures most misery and spiritual attacks come from your own sin? No. Now, sin in general, yes, we are under a curse. As sinners, we are under a curse. We are under a general curse. Everybody dies. Everybody has misery. The Bible says that God has made the creature subject unto vanity. And I'm not sure exactly what you're saying here, Brian. Pastor, don't you think from the scriptures most misery and spiritual attacks come from our own sin? I will tell you this, Brian, and I would say the way you worded this, I would have to disagree with you on this principle. I have been spiritually attacked when I have done nothing wrong. I've been spiritually attacked simply because of who I am. I'm the husband of Lisa. I'm the father of these children. I'm the pastor of this church. I've been under attack simply because of that. And I hadn't done anything wrong. I will also tell you the exact opposite. The exact opposite is the greatest blessings that God has ever bestowed upon Mike Hoggard has never been as a result of how good I've been. I can tell you that the greatest blessings that I have ever received in my life have been when I've been so spiritually poor, I probably just deserve to die and go to hell. That's scripturally, that's what I think. What was the spiritual condition of Sarah when God looked her in the eye, knowing that she had laughed, and then she lied about it? What did God promise her when she was in that condition? This time next year, you're going to be holding a baby, Sarah. So you think about that, all right? And again, I'm trying to work on my demeanor. Pastor Mike Online live broadcast, all right? I don't want to come across as crude, arrogant, rude, whatever. I want to be the nice guy, okay? But I am going to stand on principle. Next week, there will be zero, nada, zilch, the Big Goose said, Pastor Mike Online live broadcast. Tuesday's Christmas Day. I will be with my family. We will be reading the Christmas story and talking about how Jesus died for our sins. That's what we're going to do. And then Thursday, I have learned that when I take a break, Jazz, Harmon, Ariel, all the other people around here that help support what it is that I do, they can go, oh. And so next week there will be no Pastor Mike Online live broadcast. There will, however, be a Watchman broadcast, but I've already recorded that one. Okay? So anyway, y'all take a break next week. And so far, we have survived the zombie apocalypse. God bless you. Love you. We are out of here. See ya. Bye.